all right, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another edition of Fair Ones and Fairways. Noel Sosa in the building. Here with Fernando, Hurricane, Rivas and Ivory Towns. Shout out to our producer, man, who might be making a guest appearance here and there, man. I don't know how. I'm trying to see how much Blocker wants to pop in and talk with us. But we are back, y'all. What a great show this is going to be. Fernando, what's up, man?
I know so, and pleasure to be here as always. Shout out to Ivory, shout out to Blocker, of course. Man, I'm ready to talk boxing, man.
Me too, man. Ready to talk some of the sweet science. What's up? All right, what's going on, baby?
Fellas, how we doing, man? How we doing? First time on the camera shot, man. I like what we got going here.
Hey,
I like this.
It ain't bad. It's a good way to get this going, man.
Hell yeah.
Reminds me I got to keep losing some weight, but, you know, man, we on a mission, baby. We on a mission.
Fernando, how you been doing, man? You been working them out?
Yeah, man, we're getting him there. Putting him some work.
Got to get there, man. I mean, we're about to crank it all the way up. I mean, you know, been a bunch of preliminary stuff,
right?
But we you know, we gonna make it do what it do, man.
Let's get it going, man.
Yeah, man. But fellas, man, lots to talk about. A couple of weeks since we had a chance to get together. A lot has happened since then, and I'm gonna jump right in here to it if you don't mind. Tyson Fury has retired from the sport. It wasn't just a few years ago where people were talking about Tyson Fury being, you know, possibly, you know, the greatest heavyweight boxer of all time. A lot has happened over the last couple of years, particularly a guy named Alexander Usyk, who was giving Fury back-to-back losses. The only losses, though, on Fury's record. And a lot of people want to say that, you know, maybe Fernando, that Tyson Fury may not stay retired. He's announced his retirement, you know, did it over Instagram. But what are your thoughts? Are we going to see Tyson Fury again? Or is this curtains?
No, he'll be back this summer. He'll be back this summer. I mean, look, this is fourth retirement, right? I mean, he's
done this before.
He's done this famously, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it could be, you know, a little bit of sour grapes too. You know, he just lost his O. You know, it's a new feeling for him.
Right.
And, you know, he lost back to back. And, you know, I mean, psychologically, this has to do something, you know, to accept that you lost. Somebody was better than you.
Right.
And to me, you know, ain't no shame in losing to Usyk because Usyk is the best fighter on the planet right now, arguably.
Sure.
And both times were competitive. Both times were close. You know, I think Fury's big beef was that, oh, well, 116-112, it should have been closer. What's the closest scorecard you can get and still lose? It's 115-113. So, you know, they're mad about one round. So, you know, at the end of the day, I think it's a little bit of sour grapes. You know, the competitive edge, the competitive nature, and Fury, I think he's processing this loss. He's processing the two losses, basically, is my opinion. But I don't think he'll stay retired. I think he'll be back this summer. I think Turkey's going to talk to him pretty soon. He's going to, you know, pull him to the side and, you know, convince him, you know, there's a lot of money on the table. You don't want to mess that up right now.
You know, I agree. You know, listen, he says he's retired. I got to believe he's retired, although I don't believe he's retired. You know, let's just say, you know, Fury's out the game. But I agree with you. I think he'll be back. But if we were to go the route of he's out, I mean, you know, he had himself a career, didn't he? I mean, I think his greatest story, the arc of his character, if you will, was his big comeback. You know, I mean, he wins the title. He beats Vladimir Klitschko, effectively ending that Klitschko era of dominance. And then, you know, goes through some life things and blows up to what they say over 400 pounds.
Yeah, it's about.
And becomes very, you know, heavy into alcohol and drugs and was suicidal, you know, contemplating taking his life. But then somehow comes back. Not only comes back, but then fights who at the time was one of the scariest people on the planet, in Deontay Wilder. I mean, Deontay at that time was just, I mean, how would you describe Deontay's power at that time?
Otherworldly, probably.
I mean, this is the dude that nobody wanted to see, and Fury stepped right to him. And I think, you know, in my opinion, beat him every single time. Obviously, the first time was officially declared a draw, although I thought Fury won. But I think that's Fury's claim to greatness. Not only what he did, but what he was able to do in life, and then go on to champion mental health, and reach out to people out there and try to provide some kind of positive platform and message to others who might be dealing with similar issues. Ivory, what are your thoughts on Tyson Fury's quote unquote retirement?
Ultimately, who really knows but him? I do think I agree with Fernando. I think there's a little bit of sour grapes after losing. You see this a lot in all sports. Even though Travis Kelce is on his way to the Super Bowl, because he's had kind of a so-so season, he's talked about how he's contemplated retirement after this year. So a lot of times you got champions that have a lot of success on their resume. Their first little sign of losing or a little slippage, they're like, I gotta get out of here. You know what I mean? Like, imagine Michael Jordan to keep playing and he can only average 12 points a game. Like, that's hard to fathom for guys who have a lot of success in their careers and they're used to being dominant. So it could be just a little on the spot, kind of pissed off at the time. We'll see what happens when he spends that first $2 million being retired. And then we'll see. Like, do I need to go? I need to go make a move real quick. Let me get back in here. So now we'll see. I would say give him 3 more months, and when the sun comes back out, that changes up our energy a little bit. That changes up our chakras. So we'll see if he really wants to stay retired. But all those things you brought up, Noel Sosa, about everything he's gone through, that could be more of a reason to stay retired. Like, look what I've been through. Do I want to really fight through this all over again to make weight every 6 months or whatever? So nobody really knows but him and maybe somebody close in his camp. But right now, I'll take his word for it, because here's another thing. Usyk is a little older. Am I? Which one's older? He's a little older than
Usyk's older by a year.
Yeah, by
a year. So I mean, whatever that's worth in boxing. I just got my ass whooped twice by the guy older. That doesn't feel good. So, he's still swarming a lot of these things through his head right now. And I say give him a few more months when the sun comes back out and the weather warms up, and we'll see how he feels.
Hey, look, man, I think, ain't nothing wrong with take a little time out, lick your wounds, you know what I mean? And possibly, reevaluate things, right? I mean,
yeah.
I think that's a natural thing. And again, you got to remember, man, Fury ain't never lost before as a professional. And so he just took 2 back-to-back losses. I mean, take a little time off. He's got a history of doing this, like you pointed out, Fernando. But again, if Fury really has retired, I don't want to disrespect the man. I want to say that, hey, thank you for the memories. What a run. I mean, nobody bested the man until the very end when it was Alexander Usyk, who is, when you look at Usyk's resume, could legitimately, right? I mean, I hate that this gets thrown around so much, but all-time great, at least. I mean, when you look at that resume, I mean, it's an all-time resume. That's for damn sure, So I think no shame there for Tyson Fury if he does decide to stay retired, although I think we all have our doubts about that.
See you next summer.
Yeah.
Look,
we'll payday, baby.
It's just a story as old as time itself in boxing. There's another heavyweight in history who lost to a smaller guy competitively or controversially and retired. His name was Larry Holmes. When he lost to Michael Spinks,
right?
He retired a few years. He famously told HBO to kiss his behind. And then the Mike Tyson payday came, and guess what? He's back.
He was back. So, I mean, it's very rare. It's very rare that these guys stay retired. I mean, I think I can think of maybe 2 on one, off the top of my head that were notable, at least from my day, which would be Andre Ward and Lennox Lewis. That once they retired, they stayed retired.
Marvin Hagler,
and there's still like, I think, a pull for old Andre. Yeah, I think it becomes less and less likely, but I can see it. I can see it.
Don't do it, Andre. Don't do it.
Now, Andre's one of the best boxing analysts and interviewers out there right now.
Oh man, he's killing it with the Art of Ward. Yeah,
right. He's killing it. So, hey man, he made a hell of a move. He's like he like Shannon Sharp, man. He made that other move, and now he's working in that field. You know what I mean? So
And
now stay where you at, Andre.
by the way, shout out to Andre Ward, man. See, I like his little gold chain. I'm trying to bite the style a little bit. He's got a dope rope chain. But anyway, listen, let's move on here because we got a lot to go over on today's show. Will Tyson Fury stay retired? We'll see about that. But, another thing that's very interesting. Look, man, game changer, right, has been His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh and the influence of Saudi Arabia on the sport of boxing. And Turki kind of put out his wish list. And, we're going to segue here talking about Tyson Fury because at the top of his wish list was Fury versus AJ. Look, despite that, this wouldn't be the fight that it once would have been, it's still probably the biggest money-making fight in the sport of boxing. Am I right about that?
Oh yeah, it
No
was
doubt, no doubt.
stadium.
Yeah, I mean they're going to sell out Wembley again,
Yeah.
and make a just an unbelievable amount of money. And guess what? I'd be tuning in, right?
Yeah.
I think all of us would be excited to see the fight, even though it wouldn't have the significance that once upon a time it would have had, as far as like for all the marbles, all the titles, undefeated records, all that stuff. Even though it's still, I mean, it's must see TV, right? You're going to tune in to see who's going to win that fight. But with Tyson, and again, this is at the top of Turkey's wish list, but now with that, with the recent retirement of Tyson Fury, His Excellency has pivoted and says, well, why don't we just now, since Fury's unavailable, let's make AJ versus Deontay Wilder, another fight that we had asked for years and never got. And again, another fight that, if it does happen, will lack the significance that it once would have had. But let me just sound off first, I guess, since I'm running my mouth over here. I want to see it. I'll see it. I'll tune in to see it. If as bad as Wilder has looked, and he's looked terrible his last couple fights,
He'll be coming out of retirement too, right?
I think he just
did he officially retire?
Has he officially retired?
I haven't heard anything about.
I haven't heard anything officially retiring.
Okay.
I've heard him say he's coming back. Actually,
okay.
To the contrary, I've heard he say he's coming back. That he wasn't done. But
maybe I heard him say he's stepping away for a minute.
Well,
something like that.
Something like that. And again, nothing wrong with licking your wounds, like we were talking about. But do you have any interest, Fernando? I'll start with you over there. Do you have any interest in this fight? The potential, the AJ versus Wilder.
No.
Okay.
I don't. But I can see why a lot of people still would. I mean, I want to see Deontay get some W's first, man. I think, those last two fights, with Parker and Big Bang Zhang, I think those took out if he had any confidence left in himself, I think that sapped it right there.
He looked really bad.
And he needs some W's, man. He needs to get back in the winning column and really just, he needs to focus on his skill set right now, because I think over the years he just became too right-hand dependent. He just, because he back in his prime, if he touches you, he KOs you. And I think he got too dependent on that. And I think fundamentally it affected him a little bit. Stylistically, it affected him as well. And I think he paid the price for it later in his career. So I'd like to see him get some W's first, and let's let him regroup.
I mean, I agree with that. But again, for me, there's still a little hope against hope that something can wake up within him. And I think, I hate to get into people's personal life. That's not what I'm trying to do, but I'm saying I think he's gone through some personal changes, like in his household, relationships, things like that. Again, not trying to touch on that too much, but you never know where a guy's at, and if he can find that fire again, and if he can reload that right hand like it once was, anything is possible. And we know that AJ, man, if you touch him, despite the big heart, anything's possible. I am intrigued by the fight. I understand what you're saying, though, Fernando. Ivory, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, by your response, I feel like you might still be a little intrigued by the potential matchup.
Yeah, I'm interested in it, but also what Fernando was saying, I've been screaming for years now. Like, please, pick up some fundamentals, and maybe you can turn some of this around. That's all he's ever had is at one punch. So I've been screaming that for years now. He hasn't seemed like he's worried about doing it at all. I don't know how many new tricks you can teach an old dog at this point. So, but I mean, because of the exciting style of fight, the one punch knockout power. AJ, we're scratching our head about AJ too, but it still makes for a good match, right? Styles make fights, so you want both of them to kind of get more seasoned and physically and boxing wise for Wilder, psychologically and mentally for AJ. You want both of these guys to step up a little bit in those realms, but I don't know. I don't know if we're going to get it from either one of these guys, but they could still make a fight for the public to be excited by when they get in the ring with each other. So, yeah, I'll watch it. I'm still into it, but yeah, Fernando, what you've been saying about Wilder, please. I've been screaming that for years, man.
And
And
Joshua,
I don't know.
man,
He doesn't. Him or his corner doesn't seem to
yeah.
want to go that route.
And Joshua too. I mean, he's got some bouncing back to do as well. I mean, he's coming back of that loss to Dubois.
Nasty
It
knockout.
was nasty. He's got to get some confidence back.
Yeah.
Right now, the way I see this fight right now is literally, it's a guy that can KO you with one punch versus a guy that can get KO'd by one punch.
That's right.
I mean, that's what I'm looking at when I see this fight on paper.
All right.
And so, let's. If I'm Turki Al-Sheikh, I like to let this fight marinate a little bit. Maybe let's let him do what do a little co-feature where both of them are fighting somebody else that they can beat or something, and then let's set it up for later so they can get some confidence and some momentum back. Really,
And for the record, and I say this with all due respect, sometimes we have to give our opinion, and it can sound like being negative or open critical. And I never want to have that spirit, but I also want to be honest. I think that Malik Scott has done an awful job with Deontay Wilder. I just, ever since that happened, I feel like Deontay just hasn't been the same.
Yeah, man.
And again, with all due respect, I have not been a fan of that pairing, if you will. I am a fan of Turki Al-Sheikh, and if he says he wants it, he's got a pretty good track record of making these things happen. So AJ Wilder, we'll see. That's one of the ones that we don't know. Also on that list, he says he wants to make Canelo versus Crawford, which is one of those matchups that I never would even have pondered was possible. It's kind of almost in a way like it makes me think of De La Hoya Pacquiao. Like you never really saw those two guys somehow being able to be across the ring from each other. But there seems to be a lot of momentum. Again, this at the time of this recording, it is not official, but it almost seems like it is because everybody's talking about it. It's like maybe the worst kept secret in boxing. But it technically it is not official yet. But Canelo versus Crawford, you kind of got to call it a dream matchup, even though it may not be an ideal matchup for several different reasons. It's still kind of a dream matchup. Fernando, what are your thoughts on that one, man? Canelo versus Crawford, potentially.
I mean, if you would have asked me this last year, I thought that would have been crazy. No possibility. But right now, as we speak, it seems like an announcement is imminent, right?
I mean, it feels that way.
But I mean, it's a huge fight, monstrous fight, really. But we've said it before. Weight classes exist for a reason. We're talking about a guy who just fought at 154 in his last fight, his first and only fight at 54, coming up from welterweight 147, and now he's going to jump up 2 more weight classes to fight at 68 with no rehydration clause against Canelo. I mean, I know Crawford usually walks around pretty big. I know he usually walk around pretty big. He walks around 180, but we talked about it with Jermell Charlo when he fought Canelo.
Right.
He's a guy that's pretty big when he's not in camp, but you haven't been hit by 168 pounder yet.
Right.
And so when you're jumping up all those weight classes to fight, Canelo, who he might not be at 100% peak, but he's still at his peak right now, and he's still the face of boxing, and he can still hurt you. I just feel like weight classes exist for a reason, man. Fundamentally, stylistically, I think Crawford is the better fighter. It has every potential to beat him if it was at a lower weight class. Coming up to 68 when Canelo's still near his peak or right around there.
Not too far off from his peak.
It's going to be tough.
Because Canelo's on the decline.
Yeah, he is. He's not KOing people anymore. I mean, he could have stopped Berlanga. He couldn't. He didn't stop John Ryder. So I think he's got Crawford has that going for him. Like, but man, I really want to see how he's gonna handle getting hit by those monstrous right hands of Canelo.
Because that's the thing. It's not just the weight class. It's the time spent in the weight class being hit
Yeah.
by those guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So Canelo's been doing that for years already now.
Yeah.
Because remember, Canelo's punching above his normal weight
Yeah.
class. I never thought he would exist at 168 pounds.
Yeah.
But this guy's had a knockout over Sergey the Crusher Kovalev at 175.
Yeah.
I mean, and it was a one punch, one hit, a quitter.
Yeah.
I mean, very impressive.
Yeah.
Punching way above his weight class. That tells you how exceptional Canelo is. So at 168, I mean, honestly, again, I never envisioned him being that high up in the super middleweight, but he's the man, right? He's the man at 160.
Yeah.
He's not just winning; he's the man at 168. And so it's not just that, but and again, it's kind of hard because you got to balance it out, right?
Yeah.
Like technically, they're kind of the same size away from the sport of boxing.
Yeah.
Right. And then Crawford has all this experience with strength and whatnot. Even, he's got like a little bit of wrestling in his background. So some of those advantages may be negated, but nevertheless, not all of them.
I mean,
you
essentially though, he's jumping up 3 weight classes. I mean,
at the end of the day,
he just had one fight at 54 coming off all those years at welterweight. I mean, let's call it what it is. It's a three weight class jump.
Yeah.
It's basically what it is. And, and he didn't dominate Madrimov.
That's right.
54. So, again, I can see Crawford being the underdog, but I mean, I still want to tune in to watch it because there's 2 guys at the peak of their powers.
Again, kind of that's what I call it, a dream matchup, man. You never thought you get to see this kind of matchup. There are a lot of questions. The what ifs. Could this happen? Could this happen? So it's intriguing.
And for the record, I mean, when they made De La Hoya Pacquiao, I was pissed. I thought, oh man, they just killed Manny Pacquiao. They ruined Manny Pacquiao. I thought,
and boy, oh boy,
saw what happened. We saw what happened. So,
Ivory, what are your thoughts on this potential matchup here, Canelo versus Terrence Bud Crawford?
All right, yeah, sorry, I was having camera problems, but
yeah.
I mean, it's one of those things. Like, first of all, yeah, how are we going to do this? What kind of extra clauses and bullet points and asterisks are going to be in the contract with this one? And then I hate to be a Debbie Downer, man. It's just I don't blame Jake Paul and Tyson, but that's the temperature right now. It don't matter. Just cut the check, man. Cut the check. I'll do. Turkey, you want me to come win? Okay, cut the check, and it's just, we know what that brings, right? Money's the root of all evil, and anybody do anything for $1, especially when you're talking pro boxing, prize fighting, right? So 2 years ago, 3 years ago, we laughing at stuff like this. Like, nah, 5 years ago, we laughing at this. Nah, they're not going to do that. They wouldn't do that. Why would they put themselves in that type of position? Now we know money. Well, and it's always been about the money. But, at some point, legacy, integrity, and, character kind of meant something. And I get it. When you're talking about a brutal sport like boxing, all that can go out the window when that check gets printed up. But I don't know. I don't like it because and I guess this is my late era. Like, this is our era of boxing, kind of late, right? I like to think the boxers that came up and was doing their thing when I was coming up, watching it, enjoying myself. I like to think that they like to move a certain way, right? I would like to think that certain things they can turn down simply because what they've already accomplished, and because they don't want their name on that type of stuff. All that shit is out the window now. Cut the fucking check. And if I take a L, fuck it, I take a L. And I guess you appreciate that part of it, right? Fuck it, if I take a loss, that's the game. But they ain't looking at it like that. They looking at it like, so what, I lost. Watch what I do the day after when I bust this thing open. You know what I'm saying? So I get it. Get your money. Who knows how long we're going to be here. Get as much as you can. But, we're not going to get the best. Are we going to get the best Canelo? Are we going to get the best Crawford? I don't
Well,
think so.
well, here's the thing, because I hear what you're saying. We better, because the last thing, and this is why Canelo didn't want the fight. This is why, because he knows I'm going to beat this guy. He's smaller. He is coming up all these weight divisions. They're not going to give me credit for that. But if I lose, they're gonna dog the shit out of me. It's like
Right.
a lose-lose
It's a
situation
lose-lose.
for Canelo. It's a
Yeah.
lose-lose situation for Canelo. But cut the fucking check.
Right.
I mean, so I hear what you're saying, right?
For real.
And Crawford, I mean, it's kind of like a win-win. He's gonna get the check, and if he wins, he's winning way above where he should win, if that makes sense, right? I mean,
if he loses, he gets paid, and everybody's gonna say, "Well, he was too small."
he'll go back down.
If he wins, and I told you this before after the Spence fight, I said if he can somehow successfully pull off a weight of 3 weight classes and beat the face of boxing, Canelo, when he's still near the summit, we're not talking about comparing Crawford with Mayweather. We're talking about comparing Crawford with Sugar Ray Robinson.
Yeah.
And
Right.
and that could be a crazy take, but I'm just keeping it 100 with you. It has not been done. Floyd would have never done that.
I mean, that's insane.
So
Yeah, no, you know what? I co-sign that statement. I think you're right, because if he were to do this, pull this off, and who knows how he pulls it off, right? But if it were to happen, that's in a league of your own.
we're talking Sugar Ray Robinson. We're talking Henry Armstrong.
Right.
That cloth, because those are the only ones I can think of that have jumped up those type of weight classes
And just got it on.
and just did it.
Wow.
Sam Langford's another one.
That's
We're going back a lot of years, but
that's impressive. The rumor is that we may get this thing in September. But there's announcements coming out every day at this point. You know what I mean? So let's see if it becomes official, because technically we have to say that, right? If it becomes official, and then what the details are around that. Because you never know how that ends up shaking out. But again, a dream matchup. Let me ask you this, and normally we don't do this, but just to put a bow on this topic for a second. Obviously, if it gets announced and the fight comes up, we'll deep dive into this thing. But your initial reaction, let's say this thing does happen, who wins?
Canelo, I think unanimous decision.
Okay.
Think Canelo versus Charlo, something along those lines. I think Crawford, tastes the power early and says, "Fuck this shit. Let me just box." And now Crawford does have way more dog in him than most people will give him credit for.
That's right.
But so I think that will keep him up, and I think it will keep him going the distance. I don't see him winning though, just because of the size alone. He's got great skills. He's way more skilled than Canelo, but it's just that weight advantage, man. I just think it's too much. 3 weight classes, man. It's 3 weight classes. It's hard.
And that's what makes me lean Canelo's way. Is just when you look at some of those things that are of concern. The weight class and the experience in the weight class, but I think it's tricky. I think it's what would they say in the UK? I love the way those guys talk, man, over in Europe. It's a banana skin. Like, don't get caught slipping. You know what I mean? It's a slippery situation. So it's I really think it is. I think common sense, logic, and that's where I got to go right now. I mean, maybe when we deep dive, I see something different, but I think I'm with you, Fernando. I think Canelo wins this fight by decision. Knee-jerk reaction. Listen, this fight ain't even official yet, and in my mind could change, and I could see some things, and things could happen between now and then that changes our this whole conversation. But that's where I'm at for right now. Ivory, how about you?
Yeah, I think I would have to go with Canelo. He at least has some experience of being the bigger fighter in the ring. I don't know what kind of experience Terrence Crawford has being the bigger guy physically and being able to lean on a guy, push a guy around. I mean, I guess I could go back and look at some Crawford fights, but I think that's an area that Canelo is more familiar with than Crawford. Plus, I mean, just the ability and just the know-how to get in there and do what you got to do to take out your opponent. But they make weight classes for a reason. I had to go with Canelo on this one.
Listen, let's go to the top of the weight class, back to the heavyweight division, about a guy that we talked about earlier, mentioned his name, back to Turkey's wish list here. On that wish list is the man who has defeated Tyson Fury, not once, but twice. He's the undisputed, well, he was the undisputed. He's the unified heavyweight champion. Looking maybe if this match gets made and Dubois gets through Parker, on the wish list, Usyk Dubois 2, the rematch. Interesting that Turkey didn't say winner of Parker Dubois, which ultimately I think is what happens. But Turkey was specific. He wanted to see the rematch with Dubois and Usyk. Dubois, of course, coming off his spectacular victory, best victory of his career, best performance of his career against Anthony Joshua, where he won a really nasty knockout, contender of knockout of the year last year. What a performance he put on against AJ. This is on his wish list. And again, I think ultimately what we get is the winner of Parker Dubois against Usyk. But let's just, for the sake of this, is what was on His Excellency's wish list. What are your thoughts on the potential rematch here, Fernando, with Dubois and Usyk?
Well, I mean, it would still be a big fight. Obviously, Usyk stopped him the first time. But, this is a case where, and we've talked about this before, sometimes a fighter wins a championship belt, and it's like they get emboldened by it. It's like, some fighters, some belts don't make the fighters, some fighters make the belt. But this belt has made Dubois. I don't know if you've seen it. I mean, it's just like he's went on a tear lately.
He's like a different guy.
Yeah, from the beatdown that he gave Big Baby Miller, from Philip Pergovich, knocking out AJ, and now I mean, he was clearly the 2024 comeback fighter of the year. This was a guy that some people wrote off. I wrote him off, and he's now the world champion. And you can tell he even carries himself with a little bit more confidence, even like the way he walks to the ring, like his demeanor. He has definitely risen to the occasion now. This belt has kind of emboldened him. That being said, man, I have a hard time seeing him do anything different with Usyk. I think Usyk's just at another level, and there's levels to this thing. There's levels to this game, and Usyk's just at one or two levels above him right now. And so, still a big fight, still good. I still would love to see it because Dubois is kind of on a high right now. But yeah, man, Usyk's probably the best fighter in the world right now. So
I mean, Ivory, what are your thoughts? I mean, again, it's on his wish list. His Excellency wants to see it. If Dubois and Usyk run it back,
yeah. I mean, sure, we want to see. We always down for rematches for the most part. Especially if it was a tough one in the first one, or if we think a guy got his kind of bearings back up under him and is ready to go for it again. But do we think of His Excellency? Do we think he should do with this one what we was talking about he should do with AJ and Wilder? Like let it bubble a little bit. We want Wilder and AJ to kind of get a fight or two up under them before they see each other. Do we feel the same way about this one? I feel like I kind of do. I wouldn't mind seeing the winner out of who was it, Parker, and that was supposed to take on this one.
Well, see, Dubois and Parker are scheduled to fight right now.
Okay, Dubois and Parker.
He's saying that Dubois, who's on a hot streak,
right,
who's running through people. Again, he's been kind of reborn since his loss to Usyk. Since the first time they fought. So I mean, Dubois is on fire right now, and if he gets through Parker, I think he's the only logical choice
right,
for Usyk, at least just in my opinion. And Usyk, obviously, I mean, being undefeated. And here's the other sweet part about it, Ivory, and Fernando, just to bring it full circle, if you will. If Dubois were to beat Parker, that means he retains the title. That means Usyk versus Dubois would again be for an undisputed heavyweight championship.
Yeah.
That's where it's at. That's why I think he wants it. It's a perfect case scenario in his mind.
Any reason we see Usyk not wanting to take it?
I think Usyk is like, he's at because again, you mentioned earlier his age. He doesn't have a lot of time left, so he's
Right.
going to take the biggest fights and biggest paydays available. And this is what Turkey wants, and this is what Turkey pays. Turkey brings the biggest checkbook. So I think Usyk is DTF, down to fight.
That's what it always means. There you go.
And Usyk, I mean, a win here, I mean, he can call it a day after a win against Dubois, you know, because there was a shroud of controversy, right? Everybody said that he dropped him with a body shot or something like that. I know you believe it was a body shot.
I know I'm in the minority. I thought it was a legit body shot.
I thought it was.
I'm of the mindset that regardless of what that was, he gets up and beats his ass anyways.
Nah, you think so?
I think so.
You think that right there? Look, shout out to Blocker Man running the footage.
Hey, that was right on the belt. That was right on the belt line.
Let's see. I don't know, man. I don't know.
Oh, that don't look low to me.
I don't know. But
that's not low, man.
Regardless, I think, you know, had the referee started counting, Usyk would have been like, "Oh shit, it's a knockdown. I better get up," and he would have done the same thing. We saw what happened afterwards, man. Usyk, you know.
Okay. Hang on. Real quick. I guess it's hard to say because we got to get Dubois Parker first. I was going to say pick a winner, but we can't really do that right now.
All right.
You can't really do that right now.
I'll say this.
Well, who's going to win? Who's going to win, Parker or Dubois? Let me ask you that.
If Dubois can beat Parker,
is he going to beat Parker? I know we'll deep dive into that later, but
I'm going to have a hard time picking just because Parker's on a tear of his own.
He is.
He was 2023's comeback fighter of the year.
Right.
And Dubois 2024's comeback fighter of the year. So
right.
we got two guys that are on a resurgence. They ain't trying to lose that. They ain't trying to take a step back after they just came right back to the forefront. So they're both fighting for something big here. But I learned my lesson. I'm picking against Dubois. I've done it 3 times in a row. Took 3 L's in a row. So hey, Dubois is gonna be
I got Dubois as well. And I think I'm really becoming a huge Dubois fan. Just because the character he has shown in and the style that he's developed. I just think he's at the peak of his powers, man. And I don't know if I can say the same for Parker, although Parker has been pretty reinvented himself, you know, as well. Good matchup though. Real quick, Ivory, since we went around, who do you think wins, Parker or Dubois? They're on the calendar. That's part of the February 22nd card of the Last Crescendo, which might be the greatest card we've ever seen in the history of the sport. But the question is, Dubois or Parker?
Turkey got us talking about his cards every time he dropped one.
Shout out to His Excellency.
Dubois and Parker. I don't know. I mean, yeah, it seems like you say Dubois is 24 comeback fighter of the year. Parker was 23. So does that mean Parker is 24? Has been kind of lax?
He didn't have as busy as a schedule. Is that right, Fernando? Am I saying that right?
No, but I mean, if I'm not mistaken, did he beat Big Bang Zhang in 24?
He beat Big Bang Zhang, although he went down twice. He withstood it, and he won. He won that fight.
And Big Bang drops anybody.
Yes, he does.
He can drop anybody.
Yes, he does.
To get up from the canvas against Big Bang, who, by the way, had a highlight reel knockout of Joe Joyce. You get dropped twice by him, and you get back to outpoint him. That's a big win.
He also had a highlight reel knockout of Deontay Wilder. That was I hate that for Deontay. That's why I want Deontay to come back. That can't be our last look at Deontay. That makes me sick. But you're right. You're right. Sorry. But what do you think? Pick a winner. Who wins?
I got Parker. I got
Unofficial.
Parker.
Okay.
I got Parker.
I got Parker. It's 50-50.
Even though Bang, listen, you 2 knockdowns from Bang, a chunk of you was left in that ring. You know, like you know, we'll see what you got coming out after that, but you left the left foot or something in that ring messing with Bang.
Yeah, I mean, I get that too. All right, listen, what else do we got here? Oh, look, also on the wish list, he wants to see the rematch between Devin Haney and Ryan Garcia. Obviously, first time around, Ryan Garcia really well. Listen, early on, Devin was controlling the fight, but once he lost control, and Garcia proceeded to steamroll Devin Haney and give him a world class hiding. Again, see, that's another UK thing. They call it a hiding. We call it an ass whooping. You know what I mean? But he beat him up only to later have that performance X'd out and overturned to a no contest because it was found that Ryan Garcia tested positive for some substances that he should not have had in his system. So Turkey wants them to run it back. And we know we're not getting that fight immediately, but there is a setup to that fight because they are being booked for a doubleheader event where Garcia is going to fight Rolly Romero, and then Haney is going to take on Jose Carlos Ramirez in separate bouts, same fight. The thing is, both you guys do your job and win, and then in September we get together and run it back. There you see Garcia, who's going to be fighting in Rolly Romero. And then, like, what do you think of that? Is that Turkey's making his bets here? He thinks these guys can get in there and handle business, and I think we would be, if we had a bet, we would bet that they would take care of business in their respective bouts. But how do you like this? How's this shaping up for you, Fernando?
Well, the Garcia versus Rolly fight is actually still very enticing. Why? Because they have history. I don't know if you've ever seen that sparring footage where Rolly seemed to get the better of Ryan, and they were blasting that all over social media.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a little bit of history there. There was some animosity there. And they've always kind of had, some rivalries based off of that one sparring session, right? I mean, they keep bringing that back. But yeah, the press conference alone is going to be crazy for Ryan versus Rolly.
Right.
They're going to talk their trash, and Rolly is an expert trash talker. He's going through a little bit of a rough stretch because he got stopped by Tank, he got stopped by Pitbull. He had that bounce back win, and so I can imagine him being the underdog. But make no mistake, this is not going to be a boring fight.
Oh no, it'll be a lot of fun to watch.
So it's a fun fight to make. I do think Rolly, is a significant underdog here, and but it'll be exciting while it lasts for sure. One of them is getting knocked out.
Oh yeah.
Sure.
No, it's going to be exciting. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun matchup. Your thoughts, Ivory? I mean, well, you know what? Let me just say my piece real quick. I like what Turkey's doing because I think he is thinking through the calendar. It's not just one event, right? I mean, because these are all good fights. These are great fights, and who knows how he's going to structure those cards. I'm excited to see it. I mean, I think this is the way you properly build these fights. I mean, hey, if this fight is going to be what it's supposed to be, let them take care of business, and then, or loser versus loser, winner versus winner type situation. I just love the way Turkey's putting these together. I'm excited to see these exciting fights. I like both of these matchups. I like Ramirez versus Haney and Garcia versus Rolly. I think those are great fights. And then if they win, we get what everybody wants. Maybe, and again, the guys, if they, winner versus winner, loser versus loser, all those things are possible. I'm excited. I like this matchup. I do want to see it again. And I'd like Orion to gain his sanity and not test positive for any banned substances second time around. That's my take. Ivory, what are your thoughts on potentially getting this rematch and the booked double header?
Seems like an exciting fight. I hate the fact that it's a bit of a clown show around Garcia and Haney. You know what I'm saying?
It's bad.
With Haney's dad, he's arguing with everybody, and then Ryan Garcia with whatever he's doing or been doing for the last year or so, whatever, But two good fighters. So if you're a boxing fan, of course you want to see this. You just hope these two guys can get in the ring. Can we make it to the ring?
Yeah.
This time around, and hopefully nothing else, jumps up in between time to alter this fight. But no, I'm all for it, man. Two exciting fighters. It's still a big question mark on Ryan Garcia's career. Will it ever get right? Is this just a little blip on the radar? Can he really be that next kind of De La Hoya like fighter that the masses want him to be? We'll see. I would say this is probably his last go round. Like, does he get a big quality fight after this if this goes wrong? If he tests positive for something, if he gets back on social media and interviews saying crazy stuff, like does it work out for him after this? If this doesn't work out good for him?
It's hard to say. It's hard to forecast that. With the day and age we live in, you just never know. You just never know.
You never know.
And it's real hard to forecast that. You know, at one point in time, you would think it would be over, but I don't know, man. We live in a weird world. And let me say this: all the embarrassing stuff that has happened, the circus, like you said, the clown show, if you will. I think the worst look was the lawsuit. Devin
Yeah,
Haney
David Haney. Yeah,
suing Ryan Garcia for
yeah,
beating him up for assault. That's just it's just
assault.
it's just not a good look.
Yeah, no, not a good look at all.
This is off topic. Worse, Devin Haney or Drake's lawsuit?
About damn equal.
Yeah,
About damn equal. About damn equal. Listen, I want to try to get in as much as we can here and keep this moving if that's all right with you guys. Last on the wish list here. What would you call this fight? Like a legacy matchup? It's the Sons of Legends renewing the rivalry between Ben and Eubank. We're talking about Eubank Jr. versus Connor Ben, picking up where their fathers left off, keeping that fight and that rivalry, that family rivalry going. We know that this is happening in London. Is it April that's happening?
April 26th.
April 26th. April 26th in London. Look, over there, this is one of the biggest fights you could possibly make.
Yeah, no, it is. And, I believe it's at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. I wouldn't be surprised to see it sold out, jam-packed. The atmosphere there is going to be crazy because it is a rivalry fight. It's a grudge match, right? Both their fathers had an incredible rivalry themselves. Their first fight was a classic, that Eubank won by stoppage. I believe Eubank got dropped in that fight. Then the rematch, they fought to a draw, if I'm not mistaken, at Old Trafford Stadium in Manchester. And these guys, are selling out stadiums, and now the Suns are doing it. And they haven't had the exact careers that their fathers had. I don't think Eubank Jr. has been a world champion. I think he's been close to it. He's kind of circled the world championship, but he's never really landed. I think not long ago he was campaigning for a Canelo fight. So I don't know, man. It's a good fight as far as the Suns go. I think it's not quite what their dads were, but they're still stars in their own right in the UK. And I think, like I said, it's at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. That should tell you how big it is for the UK.
Yeah, no, it's huge over there. Those are, you say those names, and that's royalty in the boxing world over there.
Yeah,
the Suns getting after it. This is the second generation of this rivalry. Eubank Jr., Connor Ben, and it looks like I don't know. Is it genuine? Do they honestly not like each other, or are they just trying to put on? Look at them right there. There it is. Fernando, do you think that's a genuine rivalry?
I think a lot of it could just be to keep the show going. Keep the maybe they were told, hey, we're not supposed to like these guys.
Right.
But there is some. They've been talking trash to each other, so you got to believe that there's some genuine stuff there. But a lot of it too, my dad whooped your dad's ass. You know what I'm saying? Like, my dad whooped your dad's ass, and then they ran it back, and he still couldn't do it.
Yeah,
so,
right.
So Connor Ben really, I know he's probably feeling some type of way about that. And this is his chance to fight for the Ben name, right? For the Ben legacy right here. What better way to do it than in front of a big soccer stadium in the UK?
Yeah,
and get back for your family.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of high stakes there. But yeah, it could be a little bit of animosity, but I think a little bit of it. There's a little bit of it of just what, you're a Eubanks, you're a Ben, you're not supposed to like each other.
Yeah. Ivory, this is the last one on the list, man. It should be a fun fight, right?
Should be a good fight. Give it up to His Excellency for understanding local legacy, local history, to understanding content in this new social media day and age. Can you imagine or should I say, what about the footage that we haven't seen of these guys behind the scenes, before and after a press conference, before or after, training sessions and things like that? Like, imagine some of the stuff we haven't seen that possibly maybe we'll get into as we get a little closer to this fight. We'll get to see a little bit of it. So, give it up to Turki Al-Sheikh for understanding, family name and legacy and content and a little little local, rivalry and beef that he can tap back into.
No, and again, I want to just say he probably has a little bit of help from Eddie Hearn, Matchroom, as well as Queensberry, right? I think those guys are helping him out with that. But again, not to discredit His Excellency, because he does know he is a hardcore boxing fan. So you're right, give him his credit. But I know that he's got some good company helping him make those decisions when it comes to these UK European fights, right? I think he's got the right guys over there doing that. Just to keep rolling here, and I want to try to get through these because we do need to spend a little time talking about Benavidez Morrell, which is happening at the time of this recording this weekend. All right, man. I don't know how this got going. A little bit of trolling, testosterone run amok, Bud Crawford, Tank Davis beefing on Twitter, boy. A tale as old as time. They're beefing on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. It's not like these guys are ever going to fight. What's going on here, Fernando?
I think, just like the tweet says, right? Somebody's mad they weren't invited to the Ring Magazine Gala.
Somebody did get the invite, dog.
PBC and Turki Al-Sheikh, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it doesn't seem like they really mess with each other too much, right? So the relationship's been a little tepid, if you want to call it that. But so yeah, it could be that. I mean, let's keep it real. Gervonta Davis has a fight coming up. He needs to focus on that,
right?
Because I mean, in a street fight, I mean, I don't see him doing anything to Crawford. Crawford, turn him into meatloaf.
Hey, Tank, Terrence Bud, he told Tank, he said, "Man, in the street fight, I'm breaking your neck."
Okay. He's got that wrestling background.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, Tank, you might want to sit this one out. Just chill out.
He's weight classes above you, and yeah, he'd be doing that wrestling shit.
Yeah, focus on that.
But yeah, Ivory, hey man, you're a little tuned in, man. What do you make of all this back and forth with these guys?
Well, listen, I mean, yeah, it's just a lot of testosterone, a lot of big bank take, little bank talk, and all that stuff. But if we can think someday Canelo and Bud Crawford will fight, I don't know how many years it'll take, but why can't we think someday Tank and Crawford can't fight? Like I
think that's even less likely. I mean, I hear what you're saying.
It wouldn't be now. It wouldn't be now. While both are in their prime and in their top level, on the totem pole that they're sitting at right now. But if Canelo could fight Bud, then why can't Tank fight Bud? I don't know. We'll see. Give me 5 years. We'll see where they all are.
Maybe an exhibition. Right?
I was gonna say in 5 years, Crawford gonna be too old. Yeah. I mean, you got to remember Crawford is even older than Canelo. But we'll keep the state moving here. Well, we know that I've been waiting for the return of Errol Spence, but I don't know if it's even ever going to happen because now that fight has been called off. He was supposed to fight Sebastian Fendora, which again I felt like was a little unjustly given. The fact that he hasn't fought in so long, and sure enough, I think the sanctioning bodies felt the same way. It's like, what, this fight ain't happening, and it's not happening. Yeah. Spence Fendora off. Anything you want to say about that, Fernando?
Not surprising.
Yeah.
For given the level of inactivity that Spence has had, injuries, he's been injury riddled the last few years, and and I say this with a lot of respect for fighters. Obviously, Errol Spence is former world champion. He deserves all the respect and credit in the world. I just think he's done, man. I think that's a wrap. I don't think he would have beat Fendora.
Oh, really?
I think I think he is to the point in his career. I honestly think Fendora would have stopped him.
Wow.
That's how not that he's fallen off, but I think that's just how out of it he's been. It's how
just where he's at, huh?
How injured he is, how inactive, the way he looked against Crawford, and the way he got dominated. You got to understand, in boxing, those type of beatings, they take something from you.
Yeah.
And they shorten careers.
Right.
And on top of that, the inactivity. He's going on 2 years now since that fight. I believe that he might be contemplating retirement. That's what I think. And for you said it was unfair to Fendora. It is, because he's had to wait all this time. They rescheduled it, I think, twice, And you know, he had a big win against Tim Tszyu that's not aging very well anymore.
Right.
And so if he's losing a little bit of momentum, he could have been fighting and defending that championship. Instead, you know, he had to wait on Spence, and I don't see Spence coming back to what he once was anymore. And that I mean, no disrespect, but I think it's a wrap.
Well, might be. What are your thoughts, Ivory?
Is it still an eye? Wasn't it an eye issue that got real bad for Spence?
That was part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think, you know, and he hasn't fought anyone since Crawford because he's been hurt and beat up, right? So
yeah, been on the shelf.
Yeah, man. I don't know. I mean, obviously, ultimately, it's up to him and his family and his corner. But if he wants to go in there, you got to go back to the drawing board type shit. You know what I mean? We gotta slow it down. We gotta maybe throw a couple of chumps in there, man, and just to get you looking good, to get you feeling good about yourself, and to remind the public of what you look like when you're at your best. You know, that's another thing. We forget that shit. The fans, we forget about a guy. All we hear about is his injuries and how he needs to rehab. We need to be reminded of how you look and when you're at your best. So, you know, not just for him, but just for us and other promoters to want to get him into a fight and get him into action. Maybe we need to step it down a notch or two as far as opponents. Or, hey, man, lay it down, man. You've done a great job. You've won a lot of money. Hopefully you've done the right things with it. And let's look to the future, man.
I don't know whether to call it an epic fall off or wow, he still was able to squeeze out some significant fights after that accident. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know which is the narrative that will eventually win over time, but you know, I thought Errol would never be back in the ring after that accident that he suffered.
Yeah.
That was in his car accident. So either, you know, you can look at it in two ways.
Yeah.
Was he blessed to be able to squeeze out a few more fights, or has he just fallen off?
And look who he beat on his first fight back.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like all this, you know, all this inactivity and all that. I mean, it might be too much for him at this point.
Well, listen, I'm excited for the fight this weekend. At the time of this recording, we are looking forward to the Mexican monster, David Benavidez, getting in there. One of the hottest fighters in the sport right now, guy who is, again, one of those fighters that other fighters talk about kind of mythically in a way. He's going to be taking on David Morrell. Fellas, that's a motherfucking fight right there, man. Like, this is going to be, boy, I'm looking forward to this one, Fernando.
Oh, it's going to be a big fight. Big fight. We've been talking about it before when they were at 68.
I'm surprised that it's happening, and I'm very happy that it is.
Yeah, and they were both kind of avoided at 68 for a while. They both were campaigning for Canelo sweepstakes. Both of them lost, probably because they look pretty good. But just being honest, but you know, it's a really good fight, man. They're both young guys who are at the peak of their powers, who, you know, are winning and looking good when they win. They looked a little different than the last fight, though. That's interesting. They didn't look as dominant.
Both of them did. Right.
You know, David Benavidez hinted that he has some injuries going into that camp. I'm not sure about Morrell, you know, if he had something going on in his camp for that fight. But these are two guys who are undefeated, former world champions, at their peak of their powers. Stylistically, both are, you know, very good fighters. This is going to be one of those fights where this is a super fight. You know, this is one of those 50-50 pick'em fights.
Right.
So yeah, I'm very excited to watch this.
Very excited. Again, two guys on the peak of their powers, like you said, both undefeated, don't know how to lose. I would say that, and you can look at the records, that Benavidez is probably a little bit more accomplished. He's had some bigger names on his resume. He's been kind of the, you know, if you had to compare the two, the more highly touted fighter.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, David Morrell is very, very real. What he's done in a shorter amount of time has been very impressive. I mean, you can just see him in there and he looks great. Obviously, you know, like I said, Benavidez is kind of starting to become like this mythical character, the way some people talk about him, especially, you know, how people want to say that, you know, he's the guy that Canelo has been avoiding. But there you go. Look at, man, David Morrell, very, very capable, and is just a great, complete fighter. This is going to be a lot of fun, Ivory. I look forward to this weekend, man. It's going to be a great fight.
I don't know if I've ever seen a heavyweight get this type of love and this type of action with 11 fights. That's new to me. Am I late to this? This is almost like Teofimo, in his little 15 fights type of action. Am I wrong with that one?
Well, a lot of these Cuban fighters, man, they they turn pro. They have an extensive amateur background. I mean, look at
amateur fights. Yeah,
the Cuban fighters are known for that.
Yeah, I mean, you turn pro. I mean, look at Rigondeaux. I mean, that dude was a world champion by 6 fight just because he had like over 300 amateur fights.
Right.
So a lot of these Cuban prospects, they've seen so much of the best fighters in the world already in the amateurs that when they turn pro, ain't nothing new to them.
Right.
Like, it just they've seen it already. Some of this might be easier than the amateurs to them. So So this is it's nothing new when it comes to Cuban fighters or sometimes even Cossack fighters, Russian fighters, depending, it's nothing new to them.
However, this is a massive step up for David Morrell.
A huge step up.
Well, it's more of a step up for light heavyweights. Light heavyweight. It is a massive step up for Morrell, more so than it is for Benavidez. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And let's look at Benavidez. This kid, he was sparring Triple G at 15 years old.
Yeah.
True. This is a fact.
I mean, he was sparring the top guys at 160, 168 when he was a teenager.
And that's what that leads to the mythical.
And that's kind of where he got his notoriety, because he was just a little chubby kid.
Yeah.
And he's in the sparring Triple G. And and back in the day, they would make his Triple G sparring partners wear that body shield.
Yeah, right.
And he said in an interview, he's like, I didn't need that body shield. If I need a body shield, why am I in here? Why am I in? And he was a kid saying that. So that's very impressive to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And again,
Triple G was a knockout artist.
Oh, come on now.
Yeah. Killer.
Highly avoided.
Yeah.
Feared because of his crushing power and tenacity. Look, let's get to it here. And I just want to know where everybody's at with this one. I guess I could start. Benavidez, Morrell happening this weekend. Official picks. Let's start make them. I'll kick it off by saying I'm picking David Benavidez wins this fight. It's a close fight. It's 50-50 fight. I do believe. I just also feel that Benavidez just has a little bit more going for him. I think he'll be able to wear down David Morrell and get his man. I don't know if he's going to stop him. That I'm not sure of, but I am picking Benavidez to win this fight. I'll go ahead and say by decision. If he were to stop Morrell, that would be, boy, talk about a cherry on top. What a statement that would be. But I'm picking Benavidez to beat David Morrell this weekend. Fernando?
I'm with you there. I think I got Benavidez, I think, by decision. I think for two reasons. Physically, he's physically bigger. I think he's gonna outmuscle him out, kind of rough him up a little bit. But psychologically, and I said it before.
He did.
At that face-off, you threw your belt, to David Benavidez. I said it before, you weren't throwing it. You weren't throwing it at him. You were throwing it to him. And so that to me, like, when somebody's getting the best of you and you throw something at him, and Ivory said before, you start throwing shit at people, you lost. That was a psychological battle that I think David Morrell lost. You figuratively threw your belt to David Benavidez. And when I saw that, I mean, you can call it whatever, superstitious, whatever, but I saw that and I said, man, that's give round one to Benavidez. And so based on that psychological aspect, plus what we talked about stylistically, I think Benavidez gets him by decision. I think Morrell's too good to be stopped. I think he's got some dog in him, and I think he's going to have to use every bit of that. But I'm looking at 117, 111, 116, 112 for Benavidez.
Wow. Convincing win.
Convincing, but competitive.
Okay. Ivory, what are your thoughts, man? Who's winning this one?
Yeah, I'm looking Benavidez. Yeah, like we said, you throw your ring. I mean, you throw your belt, and I can just imagine, I don't know if you guys watched In Living Color back in the day.
Yeah.
But,
how you living?
Damon Wayans and David Allen Greer had a segment called Men on Film, and they acted like two gay film critics. Yeah, hated it. And only thing that was missing from David Morrell throwing his belt is that sound effect that Damon Wayans used to throw out there. Something like that. I could just hear that. As he was throwing that belt and trying to hit Benavidez. I could be totally wrong. Morrell might go in there and drop his ass, but I'm thinking Benavidez, he's a little thicker. Morrell's a little lean, you know, in that in that division. I mean, there's a lot of lean folks in that division, but he's a little more lean than Benavidez. Benavidez looks like he can lean on you and just punk you around a little bit. So I'm thinking that's going to happen. 29 fights to 11. Experience means something. I'm gonna go with Benavidez.
I like it. So unanimous decision this time around. We don't get a lot of those all the time, man. But yeah, unanimous decision. We're all thinking Benavidez is going to get the job done this weekend. And boy, oh boy, what a great fight that is going to be. Excited about that. And I don't have it here in our notes. Do we remember the undercard? Because wasn't there a couple of fights on there as well?
If I'm not mistaken, I think Steph Fulton might be running it back with Figueroa. If I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong. I got to double check on that, but I think they're running it back. I believe Pitbull's fighting on that show.
That's right. That's right. I'm pulling it up right now just to take a look at it. Let's see. Right, we know the main event. We're also looking. Right. Brandon Figueroa versus Stephen Fulton. That is going to be. These are good fights.
Be a good one.
These are good fights. That's why I wanted to just bring it up real quick. Yeah, Pitbull Cruz taking on. You're right. Angel Fierro. Is that how you say that?
Fierro.
Yeah, man. Jesus Ramos taking on Jason Rosario. That's not a bad card.
And that's not a bad test for that guy. What's the name?
For Ramos?
Sorry, I just
and Rosario. Yeah.
Rosario's not a bad test for Ramos because Rosario's a good test for a lot of fighters at 54.
Right.
So that's an interesting fight.
It's a good card. We're not going to go into depth on it, but PBC.
Yeah.
How about it?
And be on the lookout. I think Cool Boy Steph may have lost a step. I think Inoue may have taken something out of him.
Oh, I'll be curious to see how he looks.
That rematch is going to be pretty interesting.
Be curious to see how he looks. Real quick, man, just to run through a couple more quick items here. Martin McCauley, who apparently is now one of the most avoided guys in the sport. All of a sudden, he gets the victory over Big Baby Anderson, Jared Anderson. I mean, really puts a whooping on him. I mean, highlight reel knockout. But now, he's got a fight coming up against F.A. Ajagba, which should be a fun fight to watch. Big heavyweight fight, Martin McCauley. But then the word is, according to Turki, if he takes care of Ajagba, there is serious interest in going to Africa and hosting a fight between McCauley and Anthony Joshua. Look, here you go. This is Martin McCauley talking about the AJ thinking that Ajagba was going to beat him. He says, I want to knock you out. I heard you talking shit saying Ajagba was going to beat me. Shame on you. How many times do I call you out? How many times did I ask you to fight in Africa? You should be ashamed of yourself. I want to fight you. He said, I want to fight you. I want to knock him out. I want you to be there. You're talking shit. I want to fight you. Stop talking nonsense. How about that, man? Some big words from a big guy who's got a lot of momentum right now, Martin McCauley. He is going to be here in May. Looks like he's going to be fighting F.A. Ajagba. And we'll see how that goes. I mean, what are your thoughts on that, Fernando?
I think, AJ needs to say, I'm sorry, Mr. McCauley. I'm sorry that I to have upset you and perturbed you. If I do go to Africa, it's just to take a little vacation and chill out. I ain't trying to see you in the ring because Martin McCauley will do him dirty right now.
You think? Okay.
He's got that power right now that, I mean, we talked about it before. He looks so much like George Foreman in there. And we saw what Foreman did in the past, right?
Right.
But no, I mean, the kind of decline that AJ is at right now, I want to make sure he can take a punch before you take on a fighter like this. The way he got done in that fight, I mean, it was pretty bad. It was pretty bad. He looked like a shell of himself. He just never recovered. So imagine what a bomb from Martin McCauley would do to Anthony Joshua should he take that in the first round.
Look, I just got to say this. I can't, give me a second. I apologize. Martin McCauley, one of the hottest fighters in the sport right now. Listen, I said it when I was watching him fight. He just destroyed the destruction of Jared Anderson, who was one of the top prospects in the game. I mean, just blew him away. I said, damn, this guy, and I said it the last two fights that McCauley had, this guy kind of looks like George Foreman. And that has now become a sentiment among boxing fans. They say, this guy looks like George Foreman. Pause. hang on, wait a minute. I'm not just all the way sold on that yet. He's been impressive. But I'm not going to call this dude George Foreman just yet. I thought he's got there's glimpses. He does look stylistically the way he defends himself and the way he throws some of those punches. It looks like it, but he's not George yet. Calm down, pump the brakes. I'm not all the way sold on Bakoli yet. There's a lot of hype going on, but I think it's the kind of hype that we've seen. We've watched boxing our whole lives. We've seen this shit happen and it not pan out that way. Yeah. I'm not completely sold on Bakoli just yet. That's just my opinion. Yeah. I'm really anxious to see how he does look against F.A. Ajagba. Talk to me after that fight. And that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah. And for me, I mean, I just want to see AJ take a punch first.
Well,
that's all I'm trying to see. Let's see him take a punch.
Yeah. Ivory, what are your thoughts, man?
Can Bertoli, can he look like George Foreman against AJ? That's a possibility. The way AJ, the way he gives us what we're not looking for, right? So that's a possibility. But I've seen a little of this Bakoli guy. I haven't seen a whole fight. I guess he'll take care of this FA guy, but if he gets in there with AJ, I mean, it depends on if AJ going to have another fight before he gets to Bakoli. If he does, and what does he look? What does he look like in that fight? It's AJ's on that. He's on that. He's teetering right now. When we don't really know what to kind of think of him in his career. Does he have a couple of more fights? Is it over? I don't know. We'll see. He's on a fight-by-fight basis right now.
I mean, everything right now, as it concerns, the sport of boxing really as a whole, because, I mean, again, this isn't professional wrestling. It's not scripted. We don't know what the outcome is. We kind of have an idea. You kind of place your bets and you kind of have your, what you think is going to happen, your theories, and what kind of should happen, who's got the advantages, all those things. But we don't know at the end of the day. Anything can happen in that ring, especially when it comes to heavyweights. In fights in general, one punch can change everything, but especially in the big boy division, man, the heavyweight division. I mean, anything can happen at any moment. Any of these guys are capable of clipping the other. So, I mean, it's all really to be determined. But I am excited. It does get me excited. I love this kind of, how's this thing going to play out? When it comes to these big guys, man. And now Bakoli seems to be really itching. I think he feels a little disrespected because he's coming off a career big win, something that I don't think he was necessarily favorited to win. But he beat the crap out of Jared Anderson, who hopefully he can make a comeback as well too. But I mean, he just dominated him, and he has not been rewarded the way you think a fighter would be rewarded for that kind of performance. So we'll have to see how that goes. And
these guys know. They're like, you know what? I overachieved on this one. I should be getting some kind of get back on this one. I should be getting some kind of love and praise, and I should get rained down from the heavens from all the fans. Everybody should know my name after this fight. So, it's going to take a little time, Bakoli, but 21-1, 16 knockouts. You should feel good about yourself. So we'll see what happens. You got to keep going, though.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And again, he's one of those guys that I am so excited to see get back in the ring, because he has looked so impressive lately. He has looked so impressive. And I just I'm curious to see how he does. What do we got next? What's next on the list of notes here? Where are we going? Block up, fill me in real quick, because I don't have my notes. I know we're getting ready to jump into something else. Here's my man Blocker.
What up, everybody? We are to the 5-on-5, 5v5 Golden Boy Matchroom.
Yeah. Golden Boy and Matchroom. It's been rumored. Again, I don't think this is official just yet, but it has been rumored that the 5v5, which went off, I thought, amazingly, was it last year, between Matchroom and Queensberry. It looks like this time Oscar De La Hoya and Eddie Hearn, Matchroom and Golden Boy are going to possibly be, and I want to say again, it hadn't necessarily been confirmed. I mean, I've heard His Excellency say it, that this is something that's going to be happening. A big 5 versus 5 matchup, Golden Boy and Matchroom. And hang on, let me get my notes back over here. And on top of that, They're saying that part of that 5 versus 5 could be Zerto taking on Opataya, which is incredible. That could be a hell of a matchup. And this could be a hell of a 5 versus 5. Fernando, thanks for joining us again.
Sorry, I had some
technical issues. That happens. But man, a 5v5 Golden Boy matchroom, that could be really big.
It'll be big specifically because of the fact that Golden Boy and Matchroom have some beef going on right now.
Yeah. Let's what is going on?
What's going on there? Is that me?
Is it your phone?
No, my phone's dead.
Oh, phone's dead. So
do I gotta hit someone?
That His Excellency is wanting to see and make happen is another 5v5. Loved the 5 versus 5, man. Queensberry versus Matchroom, although he was one-sided as possibly. It was a complete shutout, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
5-0 he lost. Yeah.
It was bad, man. Eddie Hearn, I know he couldn't believe it. Honestly, I couldn't believe it. I didn't think there was a chance that Queensberry could just sweep Matchroom. I just didn't see that happening. I know I definitely picked a few of the fighters to win from Matchroom side, but it looks like they're going to bring that concept back, and it looks like it could be even bigger and better than ever. They're talking about Oscar De La Hoya, Golden Boy, taking on Eddie Hearn in Matchroom. And, Eddie Hearn wants some get back. He don't want to get embarrassed again. He wants to show his stable of fighters can really bring it. They're even talking that could include, how about this for a cruiserweight matchup? Zerto versus Opataya. Wow. Talk about a fight there.
That's a big fight. That's a huge fight right there. And, Surdo is a big name for Golden Boy. It's one of the big names that he has. And, and you know that Surdo's looking for a big showdown ever since that loss to Bivol.
Right.
He's kind of want to rehab his record a little bit.
Right.
He's only got the one loss, and he was able to win the cruiserweight championship.
Mm-hmm.
But what a statement he would make if he can take on someone like Opataya and beat him. And also on the 5v5 concept, De La Hoya and Eddie Hearn have been throwing shots at each other already.
They've been talking about
over
this
the last couple of years. So it'd be fun, to see them get a little competition, that way.
Yeah, I like it. Man, 5 versus 5 was so fun last time. What do you think about Golden Boy matching up with Matchroom, Ivory?
Yeah, I like it, man. And I was about to say, that must be why I've seen a lot of Eddie Hearn, like these last couple of weeks. I've seen a lot of him on social media, just, footage of him in gyms talking shit, messing with people, talking to folks. So, and I was like, oh, okay, no shit. Eddie Hearn, for one, he got to get his get back. And for two, yeah, if we got another 5 versus 5 going, he definitely has to be locked in and possibly make some different moves. I don't know if you need a whole new roster of 5 or whatever, but you need to get a general manager in there to pick some players for you, because yeah, you especially for the way Eddie Hearn walks around like he big shit and the way he be talking. Yeah, you cannot. Come on now, you cannot go out there and get wiped out like that.
I would hate that for him, man, and I don't think it's deserving. He's got some great fighters, and I think he's actually one of the good guys in the sport, man.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a popular opinion or not. That's just my 2 cents. But yeah, you would hope that it would be a little bit more competitive this time around. Yeah. Again, I didn't think he was going to get just shut out.
Do we know the fighters?
No. There's nothing confirmed on this. Even the Opataya Zerto is just talk right now. But hopefully this will get locked in and we can get some more details, because the way that they've been talking about it, people do know His Excellency and Frank Warren,
right,
and Eddie Hearn and Oscar De La Hoya. This is potentially going to be just a massive event. So looking forward to that. Speaking of rumors, we talked about this man a little bit earlier. We said that there's a possibility of Deontay Wilder coming back and fighting AJ now that Fury is out of the picture. But there is also I think it's just a rumor, right, that Wilder is going to be coming back in April to take on Curtis Harper. No, you don't know who that is. Well, you might have seen something viral about him a while back. He's the guy who, when the bell rang for round 1, turned around, walked out of the ring, and was like, "What's this?" You know what I mean? And he was fighting. Who was that? Was it a Jogba?
F.A. Jogba.
He was so coming to fight F.A. Jogba. He's like, you know what? I'm out of here.
Is that who that was?
That's who that was. So it's rumored that this guy, Curtis Harper, might be running it with Wilder. Which again, if we are going to get Wilder AJ, wouldn't be a bad fight for Wilder to run.
No, he needs a couple of these fights for Wilder, because you gotta definitely get back into your tool bag right now and get back to those fundamentals let's rediscover why you were a former Olympian.
Let's not forget that. Ivory, you were dogging his fundamentals earlier, which is, we can't argue that. He's like those fundamentals, but he did win a bronze medal and he got into the sport late. So he's got something working for him.
Yeah, let's not forget, former Olympian does have fundamentals when he wants to use them. So this is an opportunity to open back your toolbox again. Get back in there, get back in your bag, get a few rounds in there. And then after you beat this guy, get another one just like him, so you can keep doing it. Get a couple wins under your belt. I know you're up there in age, but you can still get active and take some of these fights and build yourself back up to get one of those super fights. And it must be said, with Curtis Harper, the infamous, walking out of the ring, there was nothing about him that he was scared. It was a contract dispute from everything that we've been led to believe. He got shorted on what his payout was going to be, and he basically told the promoter, "Okay, well, watch what I'm gonna do now."
Yeah.
So it is what I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm not saying I agree with that, but that's what it was. They changed his payout or something like that.
Right.
And he had signed on to fight for a different person. They said, "We're gonna pay you this." So when that bell rang, said, "Fuck that."
Bye.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know that. know that.
So
I thought he just saw Ngannou. He was like, "Nah, fuck that."
Oh man. So look, we'll see what ends up happening. Again, none of that's official. What is official now is Jaron Boots Ennis. He's got an official fight on the books against Stanionis, who's always pretty entertaining himself. I like this matchup. Fernando, what are your thoughts on Boots' next bout? Looking like it's going to be April 12th in Atlantic City, New Jersey.
Good fight for Boots. He needs a tough fight. Stanionis is one of those guys that like to come forward. Likes to throw his hooks. Looping shots. He's going to be on you all night. But if you're Boots Ennis and you're a world-class fighter, you can counterpunch this guy. You can work on a lot of your skills. It's a good test for him. This could be a good, solid test. It should give him some rounds for sure. It's going to give him some work.
Especially coming off his last performance, which was less than what we expected from him.
Yeah.
Fighting a guy like this, I'm sorry I do this. It's a banana skin. It's a potentially slippery situation. But if Boots is who they say he is, and we believe he can be, he needs to handle business here. Ivory, what are your thoughts on this one?
We just got through talking about a fighter, David Morrell, who's at the top of his ranks and getting all the shots that he's ever wanted with 11 fights under his belt.
Sure.
Boots Ennis is 33-0, and we're still talking like he's an up-and-comer. We're trying to see what he has. What is he going to look like against this guy? Like, I feel bad for Boots. Like, I don't know his fault, his performances, his promoters, but 33 fights, about to be 34 fights. We shouldn't be thinking of him like this.
You're right.
Especially with a 0 in the loss column.
I think, Fernando, and we've had this conversation before, he does have some issues with his team. At least that's what we're led to believe, unless he's just ducking folks.
Yeah, because, that last fight he was supposed to fight, was it Virgil Ortiz there?
Virgil Ortiz, yeah.
And then out of nowhere, it was like, I never said that or something like that. Like, after he had just said anybody at 154 can get it.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, except Virgil Ortiz, apparently.
Right. It was a bad look. It was a bad look for Boots.
Bad look. I don't see how your team's not communicating with you. Hey, we're trying to get a fight with this guy, and you just are completely in the dark about it. That's a bit weird. Whatever, it is what it is. It's on to this guy now. It's still a solid test, but it's just a bit weird, curious how all of a sudden you had no idea about the Virgil Ortiz fight. That's a little surprising.
Yeah. But this is official. Again, this is not rumored, speculated. This is happening April 12th. We're glad to see Boots back in there against some stiff competition. And I look forward to, again, he's not going to be able to say, I didn't expect this guy to bring it. Maybe I didn't take him seriously. Didn't prepare. He better be ready. Jonas here. So, this is going to be a great fight. I'm looking forward to it. I'm glad to see Boots back in action. And I'm glad we were able to get together once again. Block, I don't know if you have that music handy, but we are going to wrap up today's program. Thank you so much. Shout out to our boy Blocker once again, man. Producer, my boy Blocker coming through, man, helping us out, man. Appreciate you, brother. Oh yeah,
always a pleasure, man. Always a pleasure. If you guys are ready, man, we can rock it out right now.
Run the music, Fernando, Hurricane Rivas. We appreciate you, my brother. Thank you. And Ivory Towns, the Whatever You Say podcast, definitely doing his thing. Make sure you check him out over there. Anywhere podcasts are available, Whatever You Say. And there it is. Look at that. Look at that. You got the logo plugged up there and everything for him, man.
Shout out Blocker, man.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And thank you. Shout out to all of you. We're going to continue to get, refine our product for you and always bring you the best takes in boxing from guys who just love the sport, man. That's what it is. We just love the sport of boxing. Continue to cover it for you right here on Fair Ones and Fairways. Fellas, appreciate you.
Man, thank you for
No
having
doubt.
me. Shout out to everybody, Blocker, Ivory. Let's get after it, man.
Till next time, keep your hands up.